How are you?
Not too bad. How's things?
Good, good. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
Perfect. How was you? You've had a bit of a break now. The shows are back. Uh, actually, due to
27th of this month, is it?
27th.
Yeah, 27th. So,
And when was the last show you did? Would have been Cage? No, you were in Brave.
yeah. So I got back, I think it was around about the 14th of December, I think. So, yeah, it's been like over a month and I'm gumming and gutting to get back to it. So, I can't wait.
I'd say that's the longest break you've had in a long time because a lot of the shows were running quite regularly, and a lot of them were like, well, obviously you had Era, um, you had what was it one week? Was it Era, Cage Legacy, and then with Premier as well. Obviously,
And
you weren't
Alta,
and Alta then that weekend as well. So you obviously had to split your guys, and then you were in Brave. So you're very 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 busy. Did you enjoy the break, or are you just waiting to get back to it?
no, I hate not having work to go to. I absolutely hate it. I hate having this much time off.
Yeah.
So, I
So
can't wait to get back.
they look good. This from what I've seen from what's been announced so far, they're a little bit more spread out this time coming around this year. Obviously,
Just at the beginning of the year is always spread out a little bit more, sort of January, February, March, and early April. They try and spread them out a little bit. But as the summer months come in and late into the year, then there's like a massive influx of shows that run like every weekend nearly. So for us, like these are, although we have like probably about 12 shows booked in the next few weeks, um, it's that's actually quite slow for us. So
but
yeah.
you do the Muay Thai as well as like I know Gav does the Muay. You do the Muay Thai as well as MMA. You do boxing as well, don't you?
Yeah, so like we do all the combat sports. We do MMA, Thai, K1, boxing. So we have a mixture of loads of promotions, actually K1 promotions, Thai promotions, MMA promotions, and then we'll do the boxing promotions up the north, like because they like to use a team that are a cohesive team because they're not, professional boxers. So yeah, and then obviously we do a bit of bare knuckle boxing as well. So a bit of everything.
Yeah, the bare knuckle obviously that was changed last year from the Republic to North within a week, obviously due to I don't know exactly what it was, but before we go into Inside Out Car and how it all
Yeah.
began, a bit of background on yourself. You actually fought yourself as well, didn't you?
Yeah, long time ago. So I did karate, type of karate wadaroo for a long time. And Jesus, right through from about four till I was about 19 or 20. So for a long time. And then I took a big break and then I went back training, did a little bit of fighting, but I found Thai very late in life. I wish I had found it when I was younger. But for me, it was more to do with I was much older. I was getting hurt a lot more, breaking bones a lot more. So I sort of did a little bit, and then I came back out of it, and rather than fight anymore, it was sort of a case of getting into the training and the coaching and the cut side of things. But the cuts came from all the issues with broken hands. So that's sort of where the cuts came from for me. So I was continually, breaking my thumbs or snapping my snuff box or, causing issues on my knuckles. So I wanted to learn to rap. I had sort of done a little bit of rapping, sort of old style Thai rap, but I wasn't like familiar in like rules and regulations or how to rap like completely properly. And then I sort of just because of the breaking of the hands, I wanted to learn to wrap my own hands, and it just sort of fell into place from there. So
Yeah, so then obviously from your own experience through the
mm,
broken bones, the cuts, etc., that's what led you to it. Then how
mhm.
did you get started in it at that time? Like, were there courses? What way did it work? How did you get into it? Did you have to do like an apprenticeship? What sort of way did it work?
Yeah. So when I started off, you sort of there was a course. I did a course, so going on over a decade ago now, and I had sort of been working shows before that because I would have been cornering fighters and stuff like that, and I would have had wrapped hands, like not very well, mind you, but wrapped hands back then. Um, but I did a course, and then you sort of jump into it is like an apprenticeship, like it's learning on the job because it's a skills based job. You can't learn how to be a cut man or a hand wrapper in a classroom. You've got to learn on the job. Like, and people think they can go in and do like a 1 day course. They get a certificate that says like they're a cut man, and therefore they can just go out and work a show. And that's dangerous. That's really dangerous. Like, it's really dangerous for the fighter, and it's also really dangerous for the promoter and the promotion, because that gives them such a bad name when something goes wrong. If someone gets hurt badly and a cut can't be stopped or whatever, a bleed can't be stopped, it's one of those things that people think, because they see and it looks like we've got so much fluidity in what we do, that people think it's that easy just to walk in and be a cut man, and it's not. It's as hard to be a cut man as it is to be a ref or a judge. You still have to learn how to do it, and it has to be done on the job. So I did like an apprenticeship where I worked my ass off, and I literally mean we got no pay. You were lucky if you covered like your kit on a night, and that was for the guts of 2 years. And you slowly worked your way up from, like very, very amateur fights right up to pro level. Now, I was very lucky. I've been in the game for a long time, so I've been around cages and rings for a long, long time, and obviously worked with my own fighters that I cornered, so I sort of had a better understanding. But there is people who come into it with no background at all. Some of them, in the long run, make some of the best cut people, and some don't. Everybody's different, like, but they
Yeah.
need to train.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because there's a couple
Mm.
of points I'm going to ask you off what you said. Obviously, you said it's going to be dangerous and stuff as well. If imagine you're a fighter and you're potentially winning the fight, and your cut can't be stopped, and then because of that issue, you potentially lose out on, especially if it's
Hmm.
the UFC or Bellator, you've got a win bonus as well. So
Yeah.
if that's taken away from you, you're going to be pissed off. Number two is the credential. Like, obviously, you get that cert to say you've completed a course.
Mm.
But when the show takes you on, do they look for certain credentials? Is there certain credentials you have, or is it based on previous work?
Okay, so for the first thing which you said to me there was about oh my God, how do I say it? What did you say? What was the
The
first
fighter,
question?
was it the fighter?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, with the fighters, that's a bone of contention for me, really. Fighters go out there, especially pro level, whether it's their first pro fight or their last pro fight, they're putting food on the table. That is their job, and they have to go home safe to someone at the end of the night. They also need to bring in as much money as they can. Now, we all know they're there to do a job. It's not just for our entertainment. It is their job. It is their livelihood. If it happens that there's a shit cut man or woman in the corner who can't stop a fight or can't stop a bleed, and a doctor pulls it. Now, again, that can be down to inexperience with a doctor as well, more so than, because a good fight doctor um, will know that the cut man is shit or the cut woman is shit. You know what I mean? I don't mean that in a bad way, but they will know. And if they don't know, then they shouldn't be there either. So you have to protect yourself on both ends of it. But I have had fighters come to me. I had a fighter last year actually message me on Instagram at like literally 20 minutes after his fight and say to me, "Oh, I fought on a show you worked on, and this fighter had a really, really bad cut. And like, you stopped the bleed in every round. He went on to win. Amazing." And then he said, "I got stopped in the second round for a tiny cut on my face by the doctor because the cut man didn't know what he was doing. But I also never got my hands wrapped because when I went out looking for the other cut man to wrap my hands, he was asleep out the back."
Wow.
Now, what are you meant to say to that? Like, first and foremost, I don't know that cut man that was working that show. So I can't say anything, like, I don't know him, so I don't know who it was on it. I'd never met the man before, I'd never seen him on any show, and I'm around the game a long time. So, a lot of us cut people know each other from our work. So all I could say to him was, "I'm really sorry you lost your fight." Like, and unfortunately, if fighters and coaches don't complain to the promotion, they're going to use people that are either cheaper or not as experienced, or haven't been in the game long enough to be working on pro fights. When I do a course, I don't give out a certificate to say you're a cutman. I give out a certificate to say you've completed the course, not that you're a cutman. There is other federations and bodies, war bodies, that give out certificates saying you're a cutman. And I know people that have done a 1 day course and then gone on to try and underbid other cutmen and women all over the world, doing it for near next to nothing because they have this little piece of paper that says they're a cutman, but they've absolutely no experience. So that leads into the second question, where most promotions will employ you because of your body of work and who you've worked with, because there isn't technically a credential. I mean, if you work in the state, you have to have a license, much like the boxing license from one of the state athletic commissions. However, you know, that's only the state. Anywhere else in the world, it's not a necessary thing to have it. But you'll find 90% of promotions won't employ it unless you have a huge body of work.
Yeah, so obviously with your huge body, yeah, because like that, I'd say promotions have potentially been stung with someone coming undercutting. Have you found that? Have people tried to come in and undercut you? But then it goes back to the old saying, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what we say. Yeah.
And has that happened to you, that someone's undercut you, they've got it, and then you've been brought back for the show after because there has been issues by that cut team?
Yeah, absolutely. It has happened over the years. It has happened with teams, like teams I know as well as our own team. It's happened with where they did use someone else and it was a bit of a shit show, and then they came back to us. Now, it's not a case of saying I told you so. That's not how I work things. My only concern is the fighter. And in actual fact, we're probably one of the most reasonably priced cut teams around. So, and, you know, because we work with so many of our home shows, we have a really, like, great standing with all of them. Because a lot of the promotions in Ireland are run by fighters themselves that we've worked with. So we're lucky enough that they already know what we're capable of doing because they've seen it firsthand. But yeah, it has happened, like, and it is what it is. You know, what are you going to say? You take it with a pinch of salt, you move on, and if they come back, you give them the exact same service you gave them first time round. You know, that way, if not better. Do you know what I mean? But we continue to strive to keep the standard that we provide to every show, whether it is a full amateur show with novice fighters right through to the same level of for professional fighters. We don't want to, you know, to have a distinction between or a difference between the level of care we give, full stop, like, to anybody.
Yeah, because the only difference, obviously, between amateurs and pros is the pay. Obviously, they're not experienced, but cuts are still going to happen. I know there's no elbows or knees to the head. Cuts still do happen. Nasty cuts still do happen at amateurs. So obviously, you can't say, well, I'm going to give less care to this fighter than that, because that's not fair. But
one of my worst cuts was an amateur fight. One of my worst ever cuts was an amateur fight. And it was a clash of heads, literally a clash of heads that caused it. And it was one of my worst cuts I'd ever seen, like, at the time. Do you know that way? I'd never seen a cut as bad as that. Obviously, I have seen cuts bad, but, like, worse than that. And some of them have been amateur shows. Some have been amateur Thai. Some have been amateur MMA shows. Do you know that way? But, like, a cut is a cut is a cut. Do you know that way at the end of the day? You know, you've got some that are easy to fix and then you've got some that are really difficult. But if you know what you're doing and you have got to continuously practice your job. You've got to be out there every weekend, you know, putting in the hours, learning, listening, you know, taking a bit from everybody that you work with, whether it's the doctor or the nurse or another cut man or another cut woman or whoever it is. You have to be willing to always be open to learning. Like, if you stop learning, like, when I stop learning, you know, it's time to retire, you know, that way. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, it is a bone of contention for me, people thinking that they can just walk into the job and, you know, after they course and they're cut man. But sure, there you go, you know, it is what it is, as I say. So.
But sure, obviously, they're always going to be found out. And I like what you said. Obviously, you're always going to learn. No matter, I used to work doing kitchens, and that's what my boss said. Everything's going to improve. Everything's going to evolve. Equipment's going to get different. This is going to get different. It might be easier. It might be harder. So
Yeah.
Like you said, if you want to stop learning, you'd want to just kind of pack it in and call it a day, because that means you don't love what you do and you don't want to get
Hmm.
better at what you do to stay kind of ahead of everyone else at
Hmm.
the time. So, how long ago did you start Inside Out? How did that come about?
So I used to work for another team a few years back, and we will be 6 in December. So we turned 5 last December there. So it was late 2017. Um, yes, 2017. I'm trying to count in my head. Too many digs to the head. That's the problem. um, Even now, the young fighters in the gym, like if you try and spar with them, they give you a couple of punches to the head. You feel like you've been dazed for about 2 days afterwards. But yeah, so 2017 was sort of the start of it, where we sat down, and myself and Brian, as you know, and I don't know if you've met Danny, because she's been away having a baby. So she's a little baby there. He must be nearly a year now, or just gone a year. So she's had a bit of time out from the team. But all three of us worked on the previous team together, and then I left and I wanted to start up Inside Out Care. Originally, actually, it was called Fighter Care and Safety. And then in December, we decided to change the name. So we rebirthed it in December to Inside Out Care. Uh, so it just sort of came from that, myself, Danny, and Brian. And then we pulled Tommy McCormick in, because you really can't, like, Tommy's one of the most experienced cut men, you know, this side of the world. And he's brilliant to work with. And he always has something new. So we pulled Tommy in to give us a hand with sort of setting up, Inside Out Care. And as we were building shows, he was helping us with, the promotions that were taking us on, and covering us with any shows that we needed, extra cut men. And then when we decided we wanted to do a course, because of, this thing, we're handing out a 1-day certificate and then saying you're a cut man, Tommy sat with us and helped, develop that course. And then help to teach it for the first few seminars and workshops, beside me and Brian and Danny. And then it's just sort of become a labour of love. It was sort of just meant to be for locally, as and such, because the amount of fighters I knew that had promotions running, and that I'd already worked on the show anyway, but I couldn't do it on my own, because you can't just have one cut person at a show for two corners. That's dangerous as well. So that's sort of how it came about, really. So it was just like a little labour of love, and it grew from there. And now there's we have I think there's 10 on the team, 10 stable cut men and women. And then we do courses a couple of times a year. We've done them here in Ireland, in the UK, in Scotland, in Bahrain. And then we sort of try and pull the people that want to learn it, just to someone who wants to learn to do it. We have a graduate program that they can work alongside all the senior and junior cut team. And then we've lots of coaches and seconds and cornermen that come on to do it specifically for their gym, or for when they travel with a fighter where there isn't a hand wrapper. They generally won't do the cuts, but where there isn't a hand wrapper in a country that a fighter goes to fight in, so that they can still wrap their hands, because they've got so used to having their hands wrapped, especially when they fight here in Ireland, whether it be MMA, Thai, K1. They've really, Ireland has really become the standard when it comes to the amount of cuts teams that they have at all the shows. And I mean right down to, amateur K1 shows, their very first show out, they'll have a full cut team on it. Same with Thai, same with K1, MMA, do you know what I mean? It's mad, it's brilliant. It's amazing to see that they really give a shit about the safety of their fighters. And it's not saying that 10 years ago they didn't. It's just it was a different ball game back then, do you know that way? So everybody's growing and evolving and seeing the sport on a much bigger scale. So
Yeah, because like you said, you've actually got quite I would hazard a guess to say you've got possibly between 80 and 90% of all the shows in the
about
country.
96% of all the shows.
96. Oh, you don't have a count
About that.
rounded up or anything?
No, I'd say it's actually probably, I think there's about 2 shows in the country we don't do out of all the shows. as in like MMA. I think it's like 2 shows, and then we have a couple of Thai shows we don't look after because they would have been looked after by Tommy and his gang since like way back when. Do you know that way? So, but like again, if I'm stuck for cuts, like we have like in March we've one night coming up with 3 shows on in 3 different parts of the country. So like again, I'm stuck for cuts like that. I'll give Tommy a shout, and if Tommy's about or one of the other guys on his team is about, you know that way. But they're primarily boxing and then a little bit of Thai boxing. But they always give us a dig out, you know that way, which is, you know, that's how it should be. We're supposed to work together. Do you know what I mean? In my books, anyway.
Yeah, because you're all in it for the same reason, and it's good that
Yeah.
you kind of you share your staff around as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that's another part I want to get onto. A lot like when you do those courses and you see people come out of it, do a lot of them want to join the team then, or or do you find a lot of people come for more informative reasons, just to learn the how, why, and when?
Yeah, I'd say probably when we do a course, it's usually between 20 and 30 people on each of the courses. We would probably get about 8 of them that want to come onto the graduate course, and the rest would just be really for informative to use within their gym, or they've kids that are fighting and they want to just, you know, understand what a doctor, what the cut, sorry, not the doctor, what the cut person is doing to them when they're in the cage, or they are part of their training, you know, like some of the kids' parents will be their coaches as well. So yeah, you get probably about maybe 12 to 15 of those out of a group of 20 to 30 would just be there for informative or to use within the gyms, or, you know, again, like if they travel with their fighters or their kids when they're fighting abroad. Then you'll get some that want to do the graduate program and they really, really want to become a cut man or woman. And a couple of weeks in, they're like, nah, this is not for me. I would say we probably get about 2 or 3 off of a course that like are there for the long term, for the longevity of it. And most of them will be because they either are huge, massive fans, and absolutely love the sports, um, or they're already embedded within the sport of combat sports, wherever it is, whether it's Thai K1, MMA, boxing, and that's usually how it goes. But we have had 1 or 2 that have joined the team over the years, and they've come from no background in martial arts whatsoever, and literally just like watch it a little bit, have seen what cool people do, and really wanted to understand what we do. And then they fall in love with it, fall in love with the sport, and actually 1 or 2 of them have gone on to do Alta. So, you know, that way they did a course like about 3 years ago, and then
Yeah.
gone on to do, well, it was Women's Warrior back then, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so it's mad. It's weird. It's like swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, it's mad how,
Yeah.
especially in MMA or combat
Mm-hmm.
sports, where different things can lead you, and there's always room for people who want to get involved, whether it be cuts, media,
Mm-hmm.
refereeing. Because I see a lot of people interested in doing like Sadeki's course, Derek
Yeah.
Hickey does courses
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I see a lot of people interested in them. I think a lot of people want to learn more about the insides and outs, because if
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't for the likes of you, like the cut teams, the referee, they're the two. They're probably the most essential. If you don't have those two, you can't really run a
Yeah.
show, because you need the health and safety. With that, like obviously you said 10 years ago it was a different ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
With now, obviously there was a couple of instances within Ireland. Health and safety is a priority in this country, especially with safe MMA. Is that what
Mm-hmm.
you think as well helped ramp it up?
Look, Ireland, like, and this don't sound like a broken record, but when it comes to safety of especially MMA, because like forgoing the K1 and Thai side of things, you know that way, um, especially the MMA side of things, we have the highest safety rating. We supply the highest medical care in MMA across the board, and it's known that like up north, down south, across the board in Ireland when it comes to MMA, the amount of safety procedures that's in place, it's higher than boxing, it's higher than any other sport. Safety measures are huge. Now, I generally don't go into that sort of stuff because it's not part and parcel of what we do. However, if the show doesn't have, like, if a promoter comes to me and says, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, I want this show and blah, 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 I want to run a show and I want this. And I will always say, if there isn't this standard of care at it, my team won't work at it. because at the end of the day, like, you know, if somebody gets really badly hurt and there isn't experienced people there that know what they're doing and have been doing combat sports, medicine, they don't understand it. They fret really easy. As soon as they see a bit of blood, they're pulling fights, they're stopping fights. They don't understand what they're seeing. They're not, you know, it's one of those things that you have to, even a doctor, I would say, should be trained alongside another combat doctor before they start working shows. And Ireland do that. You see that with Cold Blue, we see it with Glen Ellis, and we see it with Garrett up the north. They teach their doctors and their APs on site, and there's always someone who's been doing it for a long time sitting there with them. Same way we do it with our staff. And that's where Ireland are above in comparison to a lot of other countries. And it should, and rightly so. Fighters are going in there, and they know what they signed their contract for. The fans know what they're in there to do. They should have every single bit of care and help that they should get, because at the end of the day, they're making that promotion money. Do you know that way? Like, and that's how it is. And we're blessed to be able to have so many amazing fighters in this country alone that are on some of the biggest stages in the world. And they will say themselves when they fought on other shows outside of Ireland that even the level on some of the pro shows isn't what it was on some of their amateur shows. Do you know that way? So it just shows like how in the last 10 years Ireland has grown as such a small little country to one of the ones that has the highest rating for safety. And it's amazing to see it, like.
No, you need it, because like that, if you do a show like that, a promoter wants to do a certain way or a certain type, and you do it against what your usual standards, that goes from you having 96% of the shows to 6% of the shows very, very quickly, potentially.
Of course, and absolutely, like, and I just wouldn't be happy to work alongside someone that doesn't have like the fighters at the forefront of their promotion, like, and their health and their wealth, and you know, because at the end of the day, like, if something happens to a fighter and they're out for 6-8 months a year, they've no wage coming in to feed their family. What for not paying an extra couple of £100 to have the best doctor there, rather than, again, peanuts and monkeys. Do you know that way? And I don't mean that bad, but it is peanuts and monkeys.
Yeah, with that, like, I want to kind of go back to the people you said that come off the graduate, and that want to join the team.
Yeah.
What's the steps then? What way do they integrate into the team? Like, do they come in as juniors, they go to seniors, and what breeds that gap from a junior to a senior? And if you can explain it, obviously, because I wouldn't know.
So everybody is different. Nobody moves up the ladder at the same pace. So when you come in and you join the team, you'll join as a trainee. You can come to every single fight. So what we'll do is we'll supply everything for you as long as you give us your time. So they'll start out the back like everybody else does, wrapping hands. And sort of within the first couple of shows that they do, I'll bring them out the front just to grease up a fighter, because that's my way of seeing how good they are around people and cameras and lights and stuff like that. So it's just a case of greasing, really. So it'd just be applying Vaseline before the fighter goes in. So they'll learn how to wrap first. They'll do their time out the back wrapping. Once their wrapping gets to a certain standard, or whoever the senior is that is looking after them mostly, once they feel they've sort of come up a bit, they'll say it to me. I'll sort of say, right, I'll drag them out the front, we'll show them how to grease up properly, where to stop them, because like people think it's just a case of stopping the fighter and greasing, but it's not, because there's cameras and there's referees and there's people with drinks sometimes, and there's just things, and there's certain stuff we have to do, because it's not just a case of them walking to us and greasing them. Usually we'll stop them, we'll tell them to take a drink and give their coach a hug, send their coach off into their corner. And then, we'll stop them, wait for the coaches to be gone out of, touching distance, and then we'll grease them. Then the pit man will do his bit. We'll step out the way and give it over to the pit man. So, like, that can be very intimidating when you have like a big time, like when you have someone like Chris Fields walking up behind a fighter who's an ex-UFC fighter, a brilliant coach, do you know the way, has amazing fighters, and it's a big show with cameras and people like that. And a lot of the guys that are on the juniors have been within the sport, so they know, and a lot of them would be like, oh my God, he's an amazing coach, do you know that way. And that befalls most of the coaches in this country. They can get a little bit starstruck, some of them, do you know that way. So for me, and I'll always be standing beside them, we'll give them a go, see how they get on, we'll keep them relaxed, you know, like I'll be always there saying, don't panic, don't worry, slow down, take it easy, do you know that way. See how they go, and then, you know, if it's a case that they are okay, we let them do a few shows where they'll just grease up, you know, they get more familiar with out the front. Then, and we're very lucky because a lot of the shows in Ireland here know that we run a graduate program, so they're very good with allowing us to use the graduates once, you know, they're with a senior. So you'll often see at some of the shows where there might be, like, I might be stood just inside the cage while someone's working on a fighter, and that's generally me watching them doing it. And most of the promoters here are brilliant for that. And the same with Brian. We might have two new people on the same show, and Brian might be standing beside one corner watching them do it, and me on the other side. And they allow us to go in on their shoulder. So like we're very blessed that way. That they want to see the cuts team, you know, that is coming up behind us, learning properly how to do it. We never would send anybody in just like, you know, on their own straight away. It's like a deer in headlights. And then the next step will be to sort of step away from the cage and let them work it. Then usually we'll sit with them, we'll talk to them, we'll ask them before they go in, like, okay, that's a cut. How are you going to treat that? What are you going to use? How are you going to stand? You know, stuff like that, just to keep them comfortable. They'll go in and do it, come back out. You'll ask them how they felt or what they used or how they did it. And it's a case of just always like talking to them, helping them build their confidence with it, you know, and guiding them. Do you know that way? And that's how it should be. You know, you'll get the best out of people when you give them the time to learn. If you rush somebody to learn, you'll never get the best out of that person, ever.
Yeah, because like you said, everyone's different. They learn at their own pace.
Mm-hmm.
People might pick up things quicker than others, and like that. If you push someone into a situation, that might just turn them off. They might, you know what? Because all it takes is one bad experience, and obviously it's the same as going to work. If you've had one bad boss that's like an arsehole or whatever, do you know, the sort of way that turns you off the profession.
I am an asshole, but anyway.
I wasn't going to say on camera, but
I'll say it for you. Don't worry.
Like it just takes one person to do something, to push it too hard or something like that when they're not ready to turn someone off a profession as a whole. That's then what people think of it as well. So no,
and it happens. Believe me, it happens. I've seen it happen. Many people being turned off by people. Do you know that way? And it's horrible to see, because I've seen some great cut men and women just alone here in Ireland that have been turned off what they do. Do you know that way, from bad experiences, like, and it's horrible, like, it's so horrible to see that they've just walked away from it. Do you know the way, and include myself, like, you know, I've had some bad experience, and I'm lucky enough that I have a lot of people around me, you know, that I get advice from, I get guidance from, you know. I have lots of cut men and women all around the world that, you know, I can always, like, you know, just like shout them off a message or give them a call and say, what do you think, or, you know, stuff like that. But if you don't have that support, especially being a woman in martial arts, like, especially doing the job I do, because it's still primarily a male-dominated area, and it's very hard. Like I said, I'm at this a long time, and there's men that aren't nearly as good as me or some of the women that I've worked with over the years, and they've got much bigger and better shows. Do you know that way? And I just say, do you know what, we're taking the scenic route. Eventually our work speaks for itself, because if it didn't, we wouldn't have the amount of shows we do. And that's inclusive of me as a woman, or the rest of the guys on the team, or Fanula as a woman, or Don coming up, do you know that way. And then the same with, look at Ryan, he came to our course, he learned on the job, and then he gets to work a show like Brave. you know, and that's how we do it. Like we we work together. Like there's no ifs, buts, and maybes about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, and what you're saying there essentially is well, those people get into shows, and you're going to get there eventually. But for about it's people always say, "I want to get here, I want to get there." But what you're saying essentially is you're enjoying the journey to there. That like
Yeah, yeah,
that you can see that within you and all the
hmm
team. And you
yeah.
touched on Brave there as well. Tell us how that came about and how it felt to get a show like Brave. Because when you would have got them, I know at the time that they still had one like they were they rose very fast. How was it to jump on board with them?
Yeah, so my first Brave was actually Brave 13, would you believe, way back when? And it was on up the north. So my team, actually Inside Out Care, were literally only like babies. So it was like, I think it was the June, and we obviously, came together the December prior to that. But I mean, obviously the team had had many years' experience before that. So it wasn't something that, like, we hadn't done. I had done Bama, Bellator, obviously, do you know that way? Bama, Bellator, Cage Warriors, Brave, do you know that way? So it sort of hit us in the pandemic again, where because Decky had taken over, everybody knows Deck Larkin, like, so he has the Combat Commission worldwide, and again, like, he teaches courses on how to be a ref and a judge, and he has like a really great team around him, all the lads. And he had sort of taken over as the head of regulatory affairs for Brave. Obviously, we work with Deck and have done for a number of years, and obviously, me and Deck are very good friends as well. So it sort of stemmed from that. Originally in 2013, we had planned that, if it came along later with Brave, we'd continue to do that. And then obviously it did later on. So yeah, that's sort of how it flew about. And then um, we went out and just started working with Brave, and spent like the most of the pandemic, actually. We spent months out there throughout the pandemic, because we were flying out for sort of like 3 or 4 weeks at a go, because obviously you couldn't travel back and forth, back and forth. So, and we were doing like 2 and 3 and 4 shows at a go every time we were out there. So, sort of Bahrain, even though I'd been there a couple of times prior to that with IMAFs, um, Bahrain is like our second home now. So, we know everybody and everybody knows us. Like, so, it's a pleasure. Like, we get to work with some of the best on Brave. You have Carlos. I mean, you have Kerrick, you have Phil, like, hello, do you know what I mean? Obviously Noel, but Noel's retired now, miss you, Noel. He was my travel buddy, all around Ireland for years. So it sort of just becomes like a family, do you know that way? And like a lot of promotions sort of have that, where they use the same team. And I think that's brilliant. I wish we would do a bit more with some of the others, because I think that, and I love where we can spread our wings with other cut men and women that, like some of my team work on other big shows as well, and that gives them an in with other cut men and women, and they learn different ways and stuff like that, just like I have, because every cut man or woman I've worked with, I've always got a little bit of knowledge off them, and vice versa. I've always given a little bit of knowledge, you know, that way. So I love that about it. But yeah, that's sort of how Brave came along. It's really down to Decky with that. But I think it's like, if we get shows come to me looking for a cut team and they haven't yet got a ref or a judge on, I'll always send them Decky, and vice versa. And then it's the same with like the medical teams. I prefer to work with certain medical teams here and up north, you know, that way. And if anyone gets on to me about a show like fighters that are starting up promotions, I'll always give out, because these are all trained people, trained, like, and experienced. You can't, you can't want for anything better than that for the fighters.
Exactly. And the bandit has just entered the thing as well there. So he's
You're up
actually
to
someone
Decky.
I think he has got a course coming up soon, so I'd actually like to talk to him. I think he's a course
Hmm.
candidate. So I wouldn't mind. So Decky, if you're listening,
Thanks,
uh,
Ross.
yeah, there's Rob.
I, I've just realised there's messages coming up. This is my first ever live, so I'm literally only seeing them there. So I was like, what the hell? Yeah. So yeah, Decky does have a course coming up. Obviously we have an Inside Out Care course. Well, I don't really call it a course, it's more seminar and workshop. So it would be the Inside Out Care Cutman seminar, and then we do a workshop. So it's a professional hand wrapping workshop. It is a long day. We used to do it over 2 days, but it's very hard for us to do over 2 days because either you get, again, like I said, there's a lot of fighters on it. There's a lot of thanks, Ross. There's a lot of fighters on it. There's a lot of coaches doing it, so they have shows every weekend. So it's very hard not to run one. Like, it's very hard to get anyone to do one during the week because most people work, inclusive of me. Do you know that way? So, and Brian has a business. I have a business. Well, I work. Brian has his own business. So for us even to try and do it through the week, it's impossible. Then obviously with the team, we're working every weekend. So we sort of have to be, really, really, really stringent in when we do them, and try and work around the shows that are on. We're lucky enough that we have a great affiliation with ISKA here as well as IMA, that way. So we've ISKA here with Oundile, and then we've IMA obviously with all the IMA officials, and you have everyone from, obviously, John, Andy's just stepped down, but you have Kieran Dabbers, you have all the Irish coaches like Danny McCormick, that way. So, we work all the IMA shows. We work with every federation equally, but we have a brilliant relationship with both IMA and ISKA here. So we're very, very lucky that, because of that, we're able to... What did Ross there say, Jess? Do you have any... No, I feckin' don't, Ross. I wish I did mind it. I absolutely would love to, especially the Dublin show coming up on the 8th of December. We have messaged them, however, Greg hasn't got back to me, so there you go. Yeah, we have emailed them. I would love for the show. I would love, and I said, like I said before to you, with loads of promotions coming into Ireland, I would love that Irish teams are working them, that way, with maybe a mixture, two from, their own team and two from here. I think, or two or three from here. I think it makes an amazing, gives a standard. It also gives teaching, and it gets to join and affiliate different promotions and different cut teams all around the world. So, but there you go. That's but yeah, we do have another course coming up on the 4th of March in Kilkenny, and it's actually on in Kilkenny Combat Academy, which is Oundile, who's the president of ISKA. But it is open to everyone, and it's not just a K1 and Thai. It is all martial arts. So it's all combat sports. We don't just, there's very rarely would we do a specific martial arts seminar and workshop. It's always going to be all the martial arts and all the combat sports, so.
Yeah, so it caters for all of them, and a lot of the messages coming in now are very nice from Jackie Almeida. Who else is it there? Melanie,
Hey, Jack.
they're all coming in as well. Like you were saying, with the likes of the PFL and Bellator all coming in, it would be nice if we could get more of our refs, stuff like that, refs,
100%.
And other people involved, because like fighters as well, you want them to get that experience of a big show. So you want your guys to get experience of a big show. So it would not be easier, it'd be more of an easier transition if you wanted to bring them to Brave.
Look, I'm going to say something, right? And all combat sport is very political. I don't do politics. I just want to work and look after my fighters. And it's the same with all my team. Ireland has some of the best and amazing refs, judges, cut men, cut women, photographers, media personalities. Do you know what I mean? Look at there, Lydia, after flying the coop, but still represents Ireland all the time. Do you know what I mean? We've you guys, with you, we've Raz, with Everything Era MMA. We have William. We have the L Triangle, a few other bits, we've Severe MMA. We have some of, for a small country, and I don't just mean in the sport itself, but in the greater circle of the sport, we have some amazing people. And you have big shows coming in here, the PFL coming, you have Cage Warriors coming back, you have Combate, you have a few others coming over. Do you know that way? Why shouldn't they use Irish refs, judges, cut people, media personalities, as well as their own? Why not have choose, like, why not do it in conjunction? Like, you're coming into another country and you already have that on your doorstep. It doesn't make sense between, like, to bring a million people in. Do you know that way? When you can use the people you have on your doorstep, like, and give everybody, like, I've worked with some great American cut men and women over the years. And I'm lucky enough, blessed to be able to work with some people from all over the world. And again, some of the knowledge I've got from them, I've been able to pass on, or I've got it and I've sort of had a little slant on it and made it my own. Do you know that way? And we all do it. We should all do it. Do you know that way? It shouldn't be, exclusive to, certain people and certain people only. Do you know that way? For whatever the political reason is, whether you're part of the big boys club or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? We do this job because we love it. We do this job because we want to keep people safe. Same as the refs, same as the judges, do you know that way? And we do it because those fighters want to entertain people, but they also have to live a life at the end of the day. It's as simple as that. It really is as simple as that.
Yeah, everyone wants to go home safely at the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, whatever. So what's that?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
Because these lives only have an hour on it, so I was just checking the time. We still have 12. We still have 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
There's only
You're getting your money worth out of me.
There's only been one that's actually gone over, and I believe that was Max Lally. Like, he's literally talking and it's counting down 60 seconds, and I don't want to interrupt him in the middle, and I'm like, and then at 30, I say, Max, like, we really have to cut this and come back. But is there anyone out there that wants to ask Jess any questions? What I'm going to ask you in the meantime as well, with the amount of shows, you've got Real Fighting Championship coming back. I've heard talks of more shows coming back as well this year, and new shows being added. How do you feel about since COVID ended and everything was get back to normal? It seems like everything's just boomed.
Yeah, it has. It reminds me of about 5 or 6 years ago here in Ireland, where we would have been on the road like every weekend, 2 days a weekend. And sometimes we'd have 3 or 4 shows over that weekend. I mean, there's nights we have 3 shows in one night. Like, who would have thought? But we do. Do you know that way? And it's extremely hard to try and master 3 different, like last year we had a couple of times where we'd like shows abroad and shows home on the same night. Like, we'd one in Manchester, we had one here in Dublin, and we had one up the north. It's hard work trying to figure out, the strategic planning for those sort of nights, but we wouldn't change it. We absolutely wouldn't change it. And we are blessed as a team at Inside Out Care that we have enough people that we can do that. And if we don't, we have enough experienced cut men that we can pull in to help us out. So, and it would still be some of like my guys, and then like Tommy or young Tom or Eddie or whoever, do you know that way? And these are all, again, experienced cut men and women. Do you know what I mean? So they're getting to work with, like, the team are getting to work with other cut men and women and learning new skills with them as well.
Yeah, the other skills are rubbing off on them and different things as well. And
that's the one
thing I know about you, obviously you're a people person, everyone knows who you are. When you have someone coming up through your team, like, is that a quality you look for in people? Because obviously when you're in MMA, you're around so many different people on a daily basis. Like you said, Paddy Houlihan's walking past you, he's at every show. Then you've got a fighter, then you've got
Rodney Moore, Reese McKee, Paul Hughes, you've got no, it's not a quality I look for, to be honest with you. It'll either naturally come out of them or it won't. And we don't force anybody to be any way but themselves. We have people who don't want to work out the front, that want to stay out the back. We have people that only want to work out the front. That doesn't happen. You have to do both jobs. If I have to do both jobs, everybody has to do both jobs. So, I mean, if I have to clean puke off me from a fighter, then I clean puke. It's advice. Everyone has to do it. There's no difference just because it's my team. There's no difference in what they do to what I do. Do you know that way? The only difference is I network a lot. But again, like you said, like, I know everybody and everybody knows me. So it's very natural for me to be the person that's networking. But, at the end of the day, we've had people that have been like super quiet people when they started off. And the one thing I say to all of them is use your voice. Like, that's all I say. Please just use your voice. Learn to, call the fighters over to you. And they gradually, from working out the back in a controlled environment where there's only fighters and coaches, there's no public people, they then start to find a voice, and then the confidence starts to grow. And then they come out the front and a little bit more confidence goes. But no, you can be the quietest person in the room or you can be the loudest person in the room. I don't give a shit as long as you do your job. I couldn't give two flying badoolas. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's not one person on my team that are the same. Everybody is different. And I wouldn't have it any other way because we have the best laughs going. And I mean, we never stop. We jive each other. We kill each other. We punch each other. We love each other, but we'll always protect each other. And that's the biggest thing that we have in Inside Out Care is that all of us are so different, but that's the one thing we have is nobody will do anything on anybody else. Do you know that way? It won't happen. And I'll fight to the death with someone for any of my team. If anybody touches anybody on my team, I don't care who they are, they'll be getting elbowed. Full stop.
Perfect, yeah, because I seen obviously if we were all the same, it'd all be very boring. And I seen obviously you all had a night down the Premier at the end of was it last year?
It was.
No, was
I
it?
Can't remember.
No, there was one of the Premiers, the last one that was in Clonmel. I know
we had a
all
staff
played
night.
out. What? Yeah.
We had a session.
Yeah, and I had to drive home. Do you not remember that? I'm like, will you hurry up with your pint?
We did invite you. We did invite you to stay. Nikki will be, Nikki.
I know Nikki ended up on the floor, didn't he?
Yeah, in a room with I can't remember who was with. But yeah, we ended up sitting up all night and watching. I think Centurion was fighting. It was Night King was fighting, and then the UFC was on. I can't remember who. Yeah, I can't remember who was watching that. And then we were all watching it upstairs after they kicked us out of the bar. And then me and Brian had a grappling fight then off this single bed. And of course Don was there with the photography.
So, who won?
No, well, I chipped his tooth and his choke was going nowhere. But, I nearly peed on myself as well, because you have to remember, like, I'm 44, so you know what I mean? Like, it's not that easy to drink all night long and then be grappling a man who's fucking 27 kilos heavier than you. You know that way. But he didn't have, the choke was nowhere near going in there, like, so, not even nearly. I think if you see the photos, I'm breaking my bollocks laughing with my hand up, stopping it. So, but we did actually fall off and break his chair and everything. It was the funniest night ever, like. But we really try to, like, have those nights out because, like, we work so hard, like, at the shows. Like, people think we just arrive, wrap a few hands, do a few cuts, and then we're on our way. We don't. We're there about 3 hours before everybody else is. We prep all our stations. We fucking spend our night running around looking for fighters because, they're too busy wanting to watch this fight or that fight or their teammates fight, and you're running around screaming for them left, right and centre. And they're like, can I wait for 10 minutes to get my hands wrapped? I'm like, no, because you're on in 3 fucking fights. Like, do you know what I mean? Because you've been gone for the last 4 hours. And then you have, like, obviously the walk out the front. So, and most times you're a 2-hour drive on top of that. So, like, most days I leave my house at about, anywhere between 10 and 12 in the morning. And I'm not home for about 2 o'clock the next morning. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we certainly don't get paid enough for that shit. Do you know what I mean? But again, money is of no consequence to any of us in the team. We do it because we love it. And that's the bare bones of it, like.
Yeah, no, I've had to witness that because obviously when I was having car issues, and fair play to yourself and Gav, actually he brought me up. You brought me up twice, 2 or 3 times, and he brought me up once as well. So I seen how early you got there. It was actually good for me though, because a lot of the fighters then I was able to get in and have the chat with. We're going to be running out of time, so I'm going to let you go. I'm going to say thank you very much for joining.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it. I don't usually, but I did.
I really enjoyed the chat. They never usually go this long, and it flowed really well. So thank you. Thank your team.
More than welcome. Thanks for having me. Yeah, and
No, it's
thanks
my
for
pleasure.
spreading the word, like spreading the word, you know. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
And it's great for not only us, but for the fighters that you do it. So, do you know what I mean? Like, kudos to anybody who gives the fighter a platform to speak out about what they're doing and where they're going. And vice versa for us. It's brilliant for people to understand what we do. So, I really, really appreciate you having me on, like, and let me talk about what we do and why we do it and what the team does. So, you know, and if anybody wants to hire us, you can DM me.
perfect. I'll put all the links down here. It's been a
No
pleasure
worries.
chatting to you,
You
and we
too,
will
hon.
talk again very soon.
I will
Thank you
see
so
you
much.
very soon. Take care. Bye.
See you later. Thank you.
Bye.